Hey, howdy. Okay, so this is Lewis from your stats class. Your favorite, I know, the silent kid. Anyhow, my thing was on um hours worked versus grades made in school. This is for students that we're testing. All right. So my data collection method was I would send people a Google form, 27 students specifically, a Google form, and asked them to answer questions on how many hours they worked uh, at a full or part-time job. They answered what grades correlated to numbers of hours worked, and whatever I got, I graphed. Okay, so my hypothesis was a student's grades will decrease as the number of hours worked per week increases. Okay, so the raw data, right off the bat, suggests that I am totally and utterly wrong. We can look at two very quick examples. If we look down at the one at the 15, just the 3 up from the bottom, you have a 75 at 15 hours. And then if we look at the very bottom, we have at 60 hours, 95%. So that's, well, that could be an outlier, but it kind of, if you can find examples of that all throughout it. Okay, so all right. So our mean for the number of hours worked was rounded down 28. Our median was 25 and our mode was 10. Our margin of error value was about 4 or 5 if you round up. I used confidence level of 90 for both of them because it started getting whack without it. And then our mean for the other one was timed work, that is. 0.89 rounded down. And then median was 95, and our mode was 95. So in general, grade-wise, everyone did really well. Regardless of how many hours they worked. We only had a couple of 70s in there. 2, actually, if I recall correctly. Okay. So I would reject my hypothesis. Because it was not, the p-value is greater than alpha by a long shot. So I would reject my hypothesis as it was utterly wrong. Okay, so then regression testing, if we put it in, you don't see a whole lot of correlation. You see a couple of 70s down there, but beyond that, there's just not a ton of correlation between, not a clear pattern. So I'd say there's, despite the R being bigger than 0.05. So shortcomings in error, old data. Some people had been out of school for some years, and I asked them, because unfortunately of the nature of this lovely little coronavirus thing, I couldn't get to a lot of my friends because they just were like, you know what, school's over. I'm not talking to people. And then it was a total convenience test. I just asked people who I knew, who were immediately around me. I asked my friends, family, immediate family, distant family, whatever. Some of them were full-time employees and not exactly students first. So how would I improve the survey? Well, one, I wouldn't take data from people who haven't been in school for a while. 2, I had to do a lot of averaging because a lot of people couldn't remember the number grade, but they could remember the letter grade average roughly. So I would take the letter grade and I would average that out. And then I would take, I I would make it more I would want to make it more random. I would imagine you'd do that similar in a way as they ask for your race in front of a state standardized test. You could say, how many hours do you work? If you work, what's your average letter grade in school? And lastly, I would want to add in people who are not who are not working. That way we could actually find out if there is a difference in how you perform, or if there's no, that way we could find if correlation was causation. Thank you for watching ever so muchly.